नमस्कार दोस्तों और जय हिंद। आप सभी को स्वागत है इन माय चैनल 1971 वॉर बुक सीरीज। तो दोस्तों, आई थिंक यू हैव एंजॉयड द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ आवर वीडियो ऑन एयर कॉमोडोर केसी कुरुविला वीर चक्र, जहां पे उन्होंने बताया अबाउट हाउ ही बिकेम अ फाइटर पायलट इन द इंडियन एयरफोर्स and how was the preparation of his squadron, the 222 squadron, to get ready for the 1971 war on the Western Front that was already coming closer and closer. Abhi, on the second part of this video series, he will be talking about his experiences in taking part in combat operations, flying his Sukhoi 7 against Pakistani positions, destroying his targets, and unfortunately being shot down and ending up as a prisoner of war in Pakistan for 1 year. So और देरी ना करके let's welcome Air Commodore KC Kuruvilla to our program today.
And I think when it came 3rd December, when Pakistan launched Operation Genghis Khan, bombing all the airfields, because the airfields were being bombed. What was the situation at that time, sir?
We were in Alwara at that time, having moved from Alwara. On the radio, we were expecting trouble and it was hotting up. Obviously, we were too young to know, but there would have been intelligence telling our people, at the various levels, at air headquarters and national level, there would have been adequate intelligence to know that the Pakistanis are moving into position for a skirmish with us. Yeah, so we had a briefing that was given to us 1 or 2 days earlier than 4th of December, 3rd of December. And sure enough, on 3rd December, we were prepared. We were all at home in the evening, and the sirens went off and we all ran out and jumped into the fences, me and my wife. And this Canberra Pakistan Air Force flew right over my house, turned left and dropped its bombs on the runway. And I was able to show.
This was a Pakistani aircraft, sir?
Yeah, Pakistani aircraft, yeah.
Okay, and this was a Canberra, you said?
Yeah, Canberra.
Pakistani Canberra, okay.
Yes.
Because that's what we only had Canberras.
Yeah, so it was quite an experience. We could hear the loud explosions, and then immediately we knew that I knew that I had to leave my wife there in the dark and now go running to the underground base operations where we got locked up. And the next morning we started missions early morning. So, yeah. So that's how it was. War and planning was, what I mean to say is, understanding of a war we had, no doubt, but what are the ingredients required to transition that into a smoother or a better war? For example, we had civilians working with us for all kinds of activities, and they all ran away when the bomb fell. So we were without food, without computers and all of that, and that was learning. So in that learning, or out of it came the non-combatant employees. So we have started a scheme where now recruit non-combatants, all this work of a lasker, of a waiter, of a bearer, all that kind of work. So that's something that came out of the war.
And your first sortie, sir, against the enemy?
Yeah.
4th of December, I guess?
So that was a raid on Chandler Airfield.
Chandler.
Yeah. Where, when you go to a military air base, you find that, I would definitely say that they knew we will come for them because they had already struck us. They started the war. We are not going to sit quiet. So Chandler Airfield had its defenses and all that, but we landed up there. We hit the runway, the ATC building, whatever was in sight, which we can put out of action, we hit those.
those blast, I mean, those aircraft hangars, anti-aircraft guns.
Yeah, all of that was there.
Our,
Just luck that we didn't get hit.
and these are just gun runs, or sir, you fired rockets as well?
Rockets. Primary weapon was rockets.
And from the Chandar airfield, were you fired at by anti-aircraft?
Definitely we were fired at. Yeah. Luckily for us, we were not hit. Because I think on the second day or the same day, another mission that went to the same place, I think he got hit and he didn't make it. Yeah.
So these sorties, sir, that you flew, you didn't fly solo, I guess. You were with people, more people, I guess. So how did you actually conduct them? Like, you were a flying officer, so somebody else might be leading the entire team.
Yeah. So you know that all these aircraft are single-seater fighters. Only one person. So before you go for a mission, you get a briefing. You do a briefing. The target is given to you in a sealed envelope. You open it and then you start planning for it. And next morning before the mission, you brief on it thoroughly. Each person knows what the target should look like. There were no real-time photographs of targets those days.
Okay.
But if there was, then you would definitely get it. And you have a rough picture of what the airfield will look like. Right? And later on in the subsequent wars, of course, we had all this. So you could definitely understand what are the targets available on a particular airfield. And been assigned, number 1 take this, number 2 takes that, number 3 takes this, number 4 takes that. So it's a 4 aircraft formation. If it's 2 aircraft formation, then only 1 and 2. They fly abreast and cover each other's tail.
So this was, and on your attack on Chandar airfield, did the PAF come for you, sir? Any sabers or any starfighters, anybody?
No, we didn't make contact with any other aircraft.
Okay. So 5th of December, sir, I think it was on Christian Monday that you went in.
Yeah.
So how was it, sir? Like, how was the entire sortie?
So Christian Monday is really far away from our Halwara base.
Okay.
Very far, because it is southwest. You head into Rajasthan, and from Rajasthan you cross the border and enter Pakistan and go to Christian Monday. I think the place where we left India was Bahawalpur, if I'm not mistaken now. I can't remember, but I think that was the point over which we turned, and from there we entered Pakistan. Okay, so to answer your question, this was one of really long ranges, and we had to do it because we had the kind of weapons that were necessary to hit a tank train. It was a tank train that was discovered by some missions that were returning from Pakistan. They noticed tanks on the station called Christian Mandi, and that was relayed by Air Headquarters to us to take on this mission.
These trains have tanks on board, like transporting them to the front line.
Yeah, correct.
Okay.
Yeah, so that tank train is what we hit. So from Halwara we had to have 4 tanks of fuel, double tanks. So we are heavily laden, and then we had to climb high and go to a particular point, get down to low level, and then get down to ultra low level and penetrate Pakistan at extremely low levels. And then we pulled up exactly as per navigation and on time, and there it was. The tank train was there, and I pulled in and I hit the engine and the first pallet. So the engine exploded in the very first attack. So it was very, very encouraging.
The train was derailed. What about the tanks, sir?
That's what I said. There were 4 of us, so each of us, would have hit a tank at various parts of the long train. So that train was waiting to go and join the war effort. So we disrupted that, and a lot of tanks got hit and burned and destroyed. So that was definitely a very crucial mission.
And one more question, sir. I mean, you were high up in the air, I understand. Could you identify the tanks, like patterns or any other ones?
So you're not very high. Your slant range is about 2 kilometers, and you reach a height, say about 1 kilometer or 1 or 2 kilometers, not more than that. From there you can make out. So we could make out their tanks, and obviously Pakistan had pattern tanks, and if they were joining the war effort, I'm sure we would get pattern tanks. But to answer your question, I'm not 100% certain that I know it was a pattern tank.
Okay. So the train was derailed and these tanks were destroyed, and you came back again, sir, I guess. Were there any casualties on your side? Okay.
Fortunately, there was no casualties. We pulled up, they saw the target, hit it, and out we went.
Because I think these trains have anti-aircraft guns mounted on them.
Well, it's a good question. Certain important railheads and all are definitely defended by anti-aircraft guns. But I don't think that Pakistan had the time to mount all of that in this particular, railway station. And there has always been a lack of integration in the Pakistan Armed Forces between Army and Air Force. Yes, you're right. Fortunately, and good for us that that it wasn't defended heavily. But there would have been other defenses like MMG fire and all that. So it's not that the sky was open to us. It will never be the case. People are firing at you with whatever they have, and this includes our own troops who don't know, who can't make out that it's their own aircraft.
Yeah.
The skill levels at those days for aircraft recognition, not all that. And even today, I would say, any one of us, you may get a lot of training, but unless you're in the business of flying planes and having, gone through chains or, various fighter aircraft who are competing with you and doing well in various other forces, you will not be. It's not your business, so to speak. But so that's the case with anybody in any field of work. If you're working with cars, you will know about cars. And you will recognize various cars that are competing with you. But for an army guy who doesn't know anything about aircraft, and he's being shot at by all kinds of aircraft, so for you're just like an enemy aircraft. So it takes a pot shot.
I mean, in the sky, no one could make a difference if it's a Nat, if it's a Sabre, if it's a Starfighter, if it's a Sukhoi 7. Yeah, nobody would.
I would say no one, but those who are concerned will know. You can make out the difference between a Nat and a Hunter. But shall we say a Nat and a Sabre, it will take a little time, because the sharp nose of the
Nat
versus the blunt nose of the
Sabre, right.
If you see those aspects, then you will recognize. But if you see just a platform and you're seeing two aircraft, one behind each other, you may not be able to tell readily, straight away. Take a while for the eyes to focus and to assess what kind of aircraft it is. Not that you can't recognize or make out the differences, but very similar looking aircraft, it takes time, as I told you.
Right. And this time also you didn't have any Pakistani Air Force on your tail, right, sir, when you're coming back?
No. But subsequently there was enemy, air action in that. And I know somebody or the other.
Because I think this was a deep penetration strike, so Pakistani would have got to know. They must have scrambled something.
It was quite deep. You're absolutely right. It was really a deep penetration strike. When we came back to Hamara Air Base, all of us had just about 1 to 1.5 minutes of fuel. That's all. So all of us had to make no going around at all. We all made direct approaches and landing, not even wasting time on the circuit.
Right.
So yeah, we fed in from long distance under radar control. We fed into the approach path and we landed straight.
I think compared to all the pilots who took part on the Eastern Front, where the targets were within maximum 100 miles from their distances, 100 or 150 miles, the pilots on the Western Front have a very deep
Yeah.
disadvantage.
Yeah, of course.
Very far away.
Yeah.
Pakistan, I think strikes happen very close to, what I can say, Balochistan area as well. That place. Yeah, so it was like you have to fly for a very long time, very less fuel left. You can't make many passes.
Yeah, quite right.
That was one problem. So then, sir, I think comes the fateful day of the 6th of December.
Yeah.
Like, how was it? What was your target given?
So the target given was Dera Baba Nanak Bridge area, which we went and hit, whatever we saw there, like enemy, enemy formations in that area.
I mean, what was your specific target there, sir? Any armored positions? Or anything?
Yeah, there were armor positions, there were troops, there were tanks, there were vehicles, and all of that. I mean, it was basically it was some sort of a reserve force that was moving up, a large force to back the war effort of Pakistan, where they had already crossed into India, and now in order to hold that area and to ensure that it is not recaptured by us. So these additional forces were moving towards that side. Also, we know, as you know, northwest of Amritsar, or north of Amritsar and northeast of Amritsar, you find that those are the areas of importance for India, because everything, if you turn right towards India, you're entering into the main arterial road which goes to Kashmir. So once they cut off that road, then Kashmir is cut off. So the Banihal Pass and those areas were very, very important for us to secure.
Okay. Got it. So this was your target, and
Yeah.
you took off, I guess, at your required time.
Took off early at about 6:30. It was, I think, 6:15 or 6:30. We reached the target, fired rockets. It was a successful mission. On the way back, we got this call. My leader, Alan De Costa, we were 2 aircraft formation. So he got a call asking our formation, please investigate in this particular area. So we were about 1.5 to 2 minutes from Dera Baba Nanak, where we turned right and back towards Pakistan to investigate this. There we found, as we crossed the border, we found a lot of vehicles static, meaning they had stopped for the night, or because they were detected. Our troops also, and our patrols that go out had found the penetration, these probing patrols that the army send out. They found a lot of movement and a lot of armored vehicles and tanks. So we were asked now, being the first mission of the day, and since it was daylight, we were asked to investigate. As we went across, we realized there were lots of targets there. And that is the time the FAC, Forward Air Controller, told me that there is a gun, that position, which is being a great hindrance for the 86th Brigade to move. They're not able to move because this gun is, covering their angle of approach. So, in one pass I picked it up, and then 2 passes I attacked that thing and completely destroyed it. But in the second pass, I was, as I pulled out, my aircraft started turning left involuntarily instead of turning right. I turned right and the aircraft was turning left. And then I realized that there was smoke. So obviously some bullet had hit some fuel tank or pipeline and it started smoking, and very soon controls had been affected and my aircraft was turning on its own to the left. So
I think the controls are hydraulic, right, sir? So
yeah, I ejected the stick to the right, foot to the right, and rudder also applied, trying to get the aircraft to the other side. And that is how I ejected. I realized that the smoke was an indication of fire and I was going deeper into Pakistan, so I ejected. I ejected at low level, high speed, and within a matter of less than 2 or 3 seconds, I hit the ground because I ejected at very low level and high speed. I had just pulled out of the attack. Yeah. So by the time I realized that I came to myself, I hit the ground almost simultaneously. And because it was very low ejection, and I had actually had a fracture on my right ankle, and I had a bone injury in the neck, which showed calcification 4-5 months later when they x-rayed me. Till then I had to live with the fracture and it had to heal on its own. So yeah, that's how I hit the ground, and very quickly I reeled up my parachute and I hid it. I had a pistol, I hid that, I buried that, and we had not eaten for 2-3 days. As I told you, everybody ran away. So it was very scarce and I was quite hungry. So from my survival pack, Russians survival pack, they have some dark chocolates packed in it. So I pulled out those chocolates and I ate some of that. Then I started crawling around. I wanted to get my bearings because it's quite a shock to hit the ground suddenly. You're firing and you're doing all kinds of things, and suddenly next moment you're on the ground and facing anyone. Yeah, it was quite a dramatic change and quite a shocking change. So yes, I found myself on the ground, and these are the immediate actions that I took. Then I started crawling. I was in tall elephant grass, and I started crawling towards the east. Because the sun, I could make out from the sun, the direction of east. Started crawling towards the sun, and I found I reached a small wire off the ground, 6 inches off the ground. I mean, at a small height. The wire was a barbed wire fence going right, and it had tins attached to it. So in the tin there was stone, so it used to rattle. Then I realized that it might be a minefield. It could be a minefield that was cordoned off, and the Pakistanis had purposely put this there to alert themselves as well as to alert them of an enemy if they hear that rattle. So then I had no choice. I couldn't go towards the east. It was all mine territory. Then I started crawling towards the west, and after about 100 yards of crawling, the elephant grass stopped and I could see. And meanwhile, heavy fighting was going on, So, yeah, because everybody was firing at us at that stage, because there were lots of guns that the Pakistanis had, which were static and vertically firing upwards. So there was, when I hit the ground, I could hear a tremendous amount of gunfire going on and exchange of fire. And not only that, when my CO reached, within the next 15-20 minutes, he reached home. And then he sent other missions because so many targets were discovered. So this area became a heavy area of air activity, and the destruction of Pakistani targets was taking place. I was in the middle, stuck of all this, and I could see rockets and aircraft, our own aircraft going.
You could have been subjected to friendly fire, sir.
That's right, exactly. So I was just lucky, and I was crawling out of that area also. But when I broke the elephant grass, I saw MMC post on my right, and that was the post that was firing on our side.
Okay.
So I was luckily head down in any case. It was raised slightly on a hillock, the sliding iron door and all that sort of stuff. So I realized that I'm crawling directly into the open and into the line of fire of this LMG. So I went back into into tall elephant grass, and I lay down because I was very tired. I was on my face down, and very tired and sleepy. We hadn't slept also 3-4 days and not eaten. And I thought I'll keep my mind. Meanwhile, my injuries started hurting me a lot. My leg was hurting, right ankle, and my neck was hurting. And later on, of course, it was found that the right ankle had a hairline fracture, and that healed on its own because we were sleeping on complete concrete beds. We had no beds. We slept on concrete with one blanket on above that concrete and one blanket to cover yourself. So that was the initial sleeping arrangement. So it helped because you're lying flat on the back, no pillow, nothing. So the best medicine is to lie on the floor flat on the back for your spinal and other injuries. So that happened by default. So it was a good thing. So I did that for about 3 hours. And while I made contact with the patrol that they had sent out, 3 people. So they were ahead of me and I didn't expect them to come into the elephant grass. But 3 hours later, I was almost like half in a daze and sleepy. I found a pair of hands had picked me up by the collar and they lifted me up, and I was looking into the barrel of a gun. A guy was standing there, and of course they started beating me up and asking me my name and all sorts of stuff. And I had
These were men in khakis, I guess.
Yeah, men in khaki, absolutely. And with half green helmets, I could make out. But they wanted to, shoot me there and there, typical execution style. But fortunately for me, within about 15-20 seconds, another person came, a Havildar sergeant. He was the third person that I've seen. And he was a Baluchi, which I came to know later on. So he actually saved my life. Meanwhile, these people had already stripped me. I was completely naked and they had taken away. And it's very cold, it was December. So anyway, very cold. Pakistan doesn't follow any Geneva Conventions, So that's been our experience.
Even beating up.
It's not allowed, but they did. And you're in the hands of the army and the enemy, in a low. I'm glad to see you. Then luckily I didn't get shot. The Baluchi sergeant said, no, we are not going to. They were saying, let's get rid of him. Where are you going to send him? We are the forwardmost picket. All Punjabi guys, Punjabi from Lahore area, Pakistan's Punjab. Those guys are completely ruthless fellows. So the sergeant didn't allow. He said, "Isko much maro." So my Hindi was not all that good. So I thought they were going to clean me up because I was now captured and I was going to be tidied up and taken as a prisoner. But it was not that. They were saying, "Isko burst tomorrow." Get rid of him. And luckily, this fellow did not allow that. Meanwhile, I had currency and all. They took away the currency. There was a cross on my chain and cross. That was taken by the sergeant. Fortunately, he took it. I'd forgotten about it completely. It was it belonged to my mother. It was a heavy chain, like 8 tolas with a cross. And it was taken, and I said, okay, it's gone. Gone is gone. But at least it saved my life. And I looked at it like that, and then these fellows then tied my hands, blindfolded me, took off my shoes. I was bare feet, so that you can't run, and I was taken to that same underground bunker which I saw. And there I realized that there was no officer there at all. In our country, we lead battle, but there was not a single officer, and they didn't know who the sergeant was, the total in charge. And they were ringing for 2-3 hours. They rang on the field telephone. Finally, after about 4.5 hours or so, I had hit the ground at 7:15. I was captured at 10:15, 3 hours later, and then went into this bunker. And by the time I was collected, it was already past 4 hours. It was early evening that they collected me, and then I did in a jeep, very painful ride through all kinds of terrain, and I reached somewhere around sunset, a place where I could hear a lot of artillery and so on. It was some army headquarters, battlefield headquarters, some div headquarters or brigade headquarters, where I was given some water, and from there they made me sit down, and I was collected in another vehicle, and by night only I was, I reached a particular place, and that later on I calculated and I realized that was Gujranwala jail. So they put me in the jail there from sundown, early hours. I think I would say that the number of hours it took to go there, northeast, from where I was captured and taken. It took a few hours, and by the time it was dark, I was put into the cell, and it had a toilet there. It was smelling, and there were 2 horse blankets and concrete. I slept. I just passed out. Then around midnight, I heard the rattling of the doors. Wake up, and all that, and I woke up pitch black because all is gone. That's why all blackout. So these guys came with their torches and all. I was handcuffed, blindfolded. My shoes were removed again, and I was put into a vehicle, and that vehicle was from midnight onwards.
Get your treatment, sir. For your
Nothing. I told them I'm in pain and all that. They just didn't bother. Moreover, fierce war is going on now. That's good. So, you can't expect anything. Leave alone the fact that your enemy is a Pakistani, and you can't expect anything from them. On top of all of that, the fierce battle is going on. They had encroached into our area and captured territory. We are fighting, with our lives to get it back. And not only get it back, we also captured a lot of territory and almost reached Lahore. When the Russians, they stopped the war. So that was that. And early morning, we reached a place, and I realized that later on, I came to know it's Rawalpindi. But we were put into a cell. I was put into a cell, same concrete bed, no toilet, nothing, and just 2 blankets and total darkness. And there I was in solitary confinement.
this was in Rawalpindi jail or someplace else?
It was called the Provost and Security Flight, PNS. So it's 3 PNSU, Provost and Security Flight. Okay, that's what they have, Pakistan. And this flight, basically, these are plainclothes people, police guys, Air Force police, who are tracking deserters, foreigners, and all. They have specific tasks. So they have a number of cells. So we were put into those cells. It's like a jail. With iron door, wooden door, and chicks. So complete darkness. We didn't know day or night or whatever it is. And war was going on. And India and Indian Airforce was attacking Rawalpindi like crazy. So every night there was air raid siren. Sometimes we heard our aircraft returning on the way back. Because Chaklala Air Base, from where we were imprisoned, barely about 20 minutes drive. So it's, for an aircraft, there's nothing. So if you not turn, you will hear it is passing nearby. You will hear it. So that started my life in prison. He was solitary confinement till 25th. So 20 days of solitary confinement.
Solitary confinement. As far as I know, sir, solitary confinement is one of the worst tortures one could inflict.
Yeah.
No talking to anybody. I think just food, maximum 3 times.
Yeah. And then we were not getting food. I got food on my third day. And that too, one meal we were getting one chapati with one ball of gas, sukha dal. It used to be, the door used to be opened and it should be put on the floor. And I had to pick it up. That's it, one meal a day initially, and then life carried on. Now I will answer any questions that you ask.
So, I mean, how and when did your solitary confinement end? Because the war was over by, I think, maximum 17th of December.
Yes.
16th it was over in Dhaka, but how was life till the 17th of December? It was solitary confinement or?
Yeah, it was. It was till 25th of December, it was solitary confinement. Completely. But there are a few things that I did. You have. The first experience was when you want to go to the toilet. Luckily, I hadn't eaten, so there was nothing I had to evacuate. But you definitely needed to get water out of your system when your bladder is full, and they will not come purposely. And because you're an officer, and they know to humiliate you, we had to pee in the room, and then it starts smelling. So I tore a piece of my overall, and I used to soak it up. And whenever they come and take me to the toilet, I used to go and rinse out that cloth and keep it with me, and just in case I had to use it again. So they would mental and physical harassment, was everyday routine. But by the 5th day, I was getting, agitated, meaning I said I must do something. So in the morning, I asked the guard to call for the senior most the Air Force person there, and the warrant officer came. His name was Rezvi.
Okay.
Yeah, he was quite respectful. He said, "Yes, what do you want?" I said, "I'm being in solitary confinement. This is not allowed, and I'm not taken to the toilet on time. I have to pee in my room, and because I can't hold on, and this is not correct. It's against the Geneva Convention." I said, "I want a piece of paper and a pen to write a complaint." I didn't think. I thought I'll get bad treatment and beaten up and all that. Luckily, nothing happened. This man had the courage to go and bring a piece of paper and a sheet of paper and white sheet of paper and a pen. And I wrote an application to the International Committee of Red Cross saying I'm being solitary confinement and food is not good and it is scarce. And I gave it to him. I didn't think anything will happen. What I thought is I'll get roughed up and beaten up or put into worse conditions of solitary confinement. But nothing happened. A few days later, in fact, it was around 15th of December, suddenly we were dressed up. We were told to dress up in, airman uniform of the PAF airmen. So we wore that and got dressed and we were ready, and my cell door opened and in walked a very fair chap with a whole lot of others. And he said, "I'm Mr. Babylon. I'm the head of International Committee of Red Cross in Rawalpindi, Pakistan." So, yeah, he came forward and then I told him, that I'm being badly treated and all the rest. I told him the whole story of what I'm undergoing and the food and everything. Then he looked back and somebody handed him a sheet of paper. That was my paper. So I don't know whether it was sent to him or whether he got it at the guard room before he came to my cell. Knowing that I would ask him, they must have given it to him there or it would have been sent to him. I don't know which is which. But he said, "I have your application. Don't worry, India has a large number of prisoners. You will not be treated badly and we will make sure that it is reciprocal." and your food and everything, we will take care of that. So after that, he left. Then 10 days later, of course, in this 10 days from 15th to 25th, everything had improved. Got those clothes we were able to keep. We got a mattress. They gave us one more blanket, a proper blanket, and a pillow, which was of course of no use. And life continued, but we were still in solitary confinement. Only on 25th, suddenly we were pulled out. I think that must have been on the instructions of Air Headquarters. We should all be put together. So they pulled us out on 25th, and we were individual cells under guard. We were taken to one room.
There were more Indian prisoners of war.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
So I went to a particular room and I found, since I was the junior most, I was the last chap to be pulled out. So when I went to the thing, I saw 11 other prisoners of war. So it was a great thing. Yeah. In fact, it was such a joy to see the others. And since I was the youngest and my course had only just come on to Sukhoi, I didn't know any of the others, except one or two whom I knew from training days. I heard of them, so that's all. And
they were all from Indian Air Force and senior to you.
All senior. All senior.
Could you name a few of them, sir?
Of course. The senior most was Wing Commander Bunny Coelho, D.A. Coelho, and next to him was Squad Leader D.S. Jaffa.
I think his backbone was broken.
Yeah,
The crash.
a spinal injury.
And he was also interrogated by Chuck Yeager from the
Even I was interviewed by Chuck Yeager. All the
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, sir. I mean, okay.
So, that was quite an interesting thing because I knew a little bit about him because he had written a book called The Right Stuff. It is about pilots, fighter pilots. And Right Stuff, he was a test pilot. He was the first chap to cross the sound barrier. So he had written a book on that. So I was very surprised because he was in civis. He was not a military attaché. He was not a defense analyst or a defense representative of USA. He was actually just scouting for the deep state. Now we know what is deep state and all that. Those days you don't know. He was working for Boeing and Lockheed Martin, and he was representing many countries, which he never told me. He didn't disclose anything. He just asked me, "Do you know who I am?" I said, "No." He said, "I'm Chuck Yeager." I said, "Oh, I know that name. Aren't you so and so?" He said, "Yes." Then we shook hands. It was nice. Yeah, that's a good thing. Yeah. So 15th day. I mean, on
I was saying the name of the pilots. Could you
sorry.
Jaffa?
So then Jaffa, then Kamath, then Dilip Parulka.
Flight lieutenant.
Yeah, Flight Lieutenant Dilip Parulka, Flight Lieutenant Mali Grewal, Flight Lieutenant Tejwan Singh, Flight Lieutenant Harish Singh Ji, Flight Lieutenant Chati, Flight Lieutenant Mullah Feroz, Flying Officer Kuruvilla. Vikram Petia also, the squad leader Vikram Petia. Yeah. So Mullah Feroz and Petia were repatriated after 3 months. Yeah. We put a lot of pressure on them to repatriate Petia because he was medically examined and there was a patch on his lungs, which we made them understand was actually from the beatings of the captors. So under that, guys, we were able to get him back.
He just passed away a few months ago, I guess. Vikram Petia.
Yeah. So Petia, he passed away recently. And then this fellow, Mullah Feroz also is no more, he's passed away. He walked into Pakistan by mistake. And when he was captured, he moved and they fired at him. So his tricep was blown off. So he had no muscle, it was only bone. And he was having a very rough time because medical attention was not all that good, and all his flesh and muscle were blown off. So the treatment also took time. He was repatriated because every night he used to howl in pain and shout, and he was a bad-tempered chap, so he was giving everybody hell.
It's horrifying.
And so, yeah, life carried on like that for many months. And
How was the treatment of the enemy, I mean your captors, after the war ended? You were saying something about the 15th.
15th? No, I didn't say anything.
After the 25th.
Yeah, after the 25th, yeah. So there were two, I've said this before also, I mean, my experience. There were two types of Pakistanis we met. The pilots who came to see us, who had trained like us at West, all they were very nice. They talked nicely. All of them used to stay in 5-star hotels. Their culture was that, because it's very well paid. And all the armed forces, the country is run by armed forces, so they pay themselves very well. So these fellows used to come with some gift like a cake or something, The other kind of pilots were the typical Pakistani. They will come in salwar kameez and they will look at you through the bars and say, "Isko kyun rakh rahe hain hum log, ye kafir hai Salman." They would speak like that, So they just came to see us like monkeys in a cage, that you go and see in a zoo. So that was the attitude of those kind of guys. But those who trained with us abroad and all that, or who had a Western influence, they understood that pilots fight wars for their country. They have nothing against any individual. They're not going around killing people. We are, and especially strike pilots who are captured, everybody knows we bring the country to a halt. Economically, we bust everything. Whether it's the gas works or the, petrol power dumps or their railway heads or their bus terminals. We just destroy everything so that the public public can't move, they become hungry, there's no food, there's no communication, roads are damaged, and the public start applying pressure on the leadership, and then the war stops. But in our case, the two major powers, Russia and America, applied a lot of pressure on us to stop the war, because we were going to reach Lahore, and we had already created one nation. So there's no question of us changing the geography of yet another nation. Already we created one country, new one. Now, if we had gone into Lahore or cut it off or annexed, that would become a major, it would become a major international event, of both discussion as well as there would be some multinational forces that will push us back, or something would have happened. The United Nations can react to that. So when a treaty is signed, when war is called off, and if you still pursue the war against the international community's desires, then by virtue of having United Nations and all, I don't know what but they can always have a continuous force to get rid of the Indians and put them back into India. So anything can happen. You never know. So they stopped the war, but we held all those positions. And that is the next most important thing that happened for us in the jail. Life carried on. We were not given anything to read or write or think. We got our first letters after 3 months. Then we started writing to our families. They also got our letters after 4-5 months. And whatever was given to us to read was nothing. So nothing there was to read, which we kept on asking for. And there was something that I should mention here. When you don't read or write for a very long time, you suffer from a manifestation that I experienced. I started forgetting my spellings. So later I learned that if you don't read or write for a very long time and you're in solitary confinement, you suffer from intelligence decay. you start forgetting things and your mind decays. You know,
Mm.
so you start forgetting things. Like I was forgetting spellings. So I used to write to my wife and ask, what is the spelling of this? I'm not able to spell it. And she used to say the I comes before the E comes before the I. So that was one thing. And so we insisted on the Red Cross to give us things to read, which they gave only in July. In July 1972. They were keeping, they knew all this tactics. You know. We only learned later on.
I think
But
I was thinking that maybe your letters are also being monitored before being sent to the Red Cross by the Pakistanis.
of course they would, 100%. It is an open sheet of paper, anybody can read it. But sure, what you mean to say is that the authorities concerned would have been warned by this prison outfit, 3P and PNSU flight. They would have told the Chaklala Air Base commander that one of them has written a letter saying that he is being badly treated and all that. Should we send it to you? They would have said, no, we are aware, all that sort of stuff. It's not, this is a thing of least importance for a commander. As long as he has the information that prisoners are restless and they're demanding their rights, that's good enough for any commander to know. And then he'll give instructions accordingly. So that's it. So in July, what happened? 3rd of July,
Mm-hmm.
the camp commandant of that time, he came into our room and was a big smile. A guy who was quite ruthless, and so he said, "I have some good news." And from behind his back, we thought it's news about us going back,
Mm-hmm.
and he was going to give us some spoken good news. Instead of that, he pulled his hands out and he put up the Pakistan Times, and in big, huge letters, it was written, "India returns 5,000 square miles of territory, 93,000 prisoners of war to follow." But there was not one word about us, not even one sentence mentioned about India asking for its prisoners of war. Nothing. And we felt very sad about that. Because Mrs. Gandhi, obviously the Simla summit took place, should have demanded that all our prisoners be returned, and we will not return any territories and all. We like the Israelis, we should have hung on to it, not anything. But no, we gave it all magnanimous. We also gave away Hajipir Pass, which was also captured by us, and some really big mistakes.
Very big blunders, I would say.
That we are suffering for even now. So,
I think India had to also take in account of the repatriation of Bengalis of
Yeah.
East Pakistan who were stuck in West Pakistan.
correct.
And some Bengali army officers and soldiers. Yeah. Then of course Indian prisoners of war comes.
Yeah, so that's a separate matter. Someday we can talk about it. But a lot of their prisoners of war didn't want to go back to Pakistan, especially the Bengalis and other, erstwhile, some Tamilian Muslims and all they had, so those didn't want to go back.
So I hope you enjoyed and liked our video जहां पे उन्होंने अपने भयंकर सिचुएशन के बारे में बात कर रहे हैं about being a POW in Pakistan till 1972. In the next part of our video regarding Air Commodore Kuruvilla, we will be getting to know of his escape attempt and eventually his return to India. Stay tuned to know more about one of the forgotten stories of the 1971 war on the Western Front. And thank you so much for watching.